This was meant to be history. Felix Seik, the greatest speedcuber of his generation, countless records, 2 world championships. And in this moment, on June 29th, 2014, he was about to do it again. Move after move, flawless. His execution, perfect. It was the solve of a lifetime, a world record time. But then, everything changed. A single mistake, a corner twist, and just like that, it was over. 5.33 seconds. It was faster than any official time in history. But because of a single mistake, it didn't count. So here's the question. Was Felix just unlucky? What makes a world record? Is it pure skill? Is it luck? Some solves are the result of years of training. Others, 1 in a million scrambles. This is the history of the Rubik's Cube world record. Before the cube became a global obsession, before the world records, the championships, and before the word speed cubing had even been invented, there was one man and one puzzle.
Mr. Rubik, Rubik, Rubik.
Is your cube from outer space?
Mr. Rubik, Rubik, Rubik.
He got 3 sides then, lost his place.
In Budapest, a 29-year-old architecture professor named Erno Rubik is working on a problem. He isn't trying to change the world. He's trying to teach his students, to help them understand how objects move through space. And so he builds a model, a small wooden cube made of colored stickers and rotating pieces. It's held together with rubber bands. He calls it the magic cube. At first, it's just a teaching tool, meant to show spatial relationships, not to be a puzzle. But then he scrambles it, and something strange happens. He can't put it back. This was the moment he realized he'd accidentally created something extraordinary. For the next month, Rubik tries to solve the cube. Not for speed, not for a record, but to understand it. That 1-month journey, it was the first Rubik's Cube solved in history. The slowest, and in a way, the most important. It was a record of patience, creativity, and insight. In 1977, Hungarian toy stores begin to sell the puzzle locally. And by 1980, it hits the global market under a new name, the Rubik's Cube. Within just a few years, over 100 million cubes were sold. People were obsessed.
It's by far and away our bestseller clearly this year, and I should think it's the bestseller by a long chalk in the toy industry, not only in this country but all over the world this year.
3, 2, 1, start. Mintai, 16 years of age, living in Los Angeles, California. He came to the United States 3 years ago with his family from Vietnam. He first saw the cube in June 1981 and solved it within 7 days of purchase in under 2 minutes. And now
22.95. That's a lot faster than 1 month, isn't it? The first Rubik's Cube World Championship was held on June 5th, 1982. 19 competitors from 15 different countries were selected and flown out to Hungary. These weren't just casual solvers. Many of them had won national competitions in their home countries. Among them, a 16-year-old high school student from Los Angeles, California. His name was Minh Thai. Born in Vietnam and raised in the United States, Minh Thai was a natural. He had taught himself to solve the Rubik's Cube using pure intuition and experimentation, long before online tutorials or structured methods were widely available. There were no YouTube videos, no forums, no cube shops. Again, it was just man versus cube. In 1982, each competitor was allowed 15 seconds to inspect a scrambled cube.
Come on, now you have 15 seconds to study your cube.
15 seconds to pick it up.
Pick it up, please.
Then, they had to solve it as quickly as possible. The final ranked time was the best out of 3 solves. Each competitor didn't bring their own cube, like how competitions are today. The cubes were provided for them. It was a raw, unfiltered battle of speed and nerves. Min Tai's victory was covered in newspapers, magazines, and even on television. He published a book called The Winning Solution, one of the very first books on solving the Rubik's Cube. It outlined his own method, combining efficiency with simplicity, designed to help beginners get fast. But then, cubing faded. The Rubik's Cube was seen as a dying fad, and speed cubing essentially disappeared from public life. Min Tai didn't ever compete again. He vanished from the cubing spotlight, but his name lived on in trivia books, early internet forums, and eventually YouTube documentaries, like the one you're watching right now. His record, 22.95, stood for 21 years. Not because no one could beat it, but because no one was keeping track. So how hard is the cube really? Let's take a break from our history lesson. The standard 3x3 Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion possible combinations. That's 43 followed by 18 zeros. To put that in perspective, there are more possible Rubik's Cube scrambles than there are grains of sand on Earth. But here's the twist, literally. No matter how scrambled the cube gets, it can always be solved in 20 moves or fewer. This is what is known as God's number. In 2010, a team led by Tomas Rikicki proved this with help from Google's computing power. They ran through every possible scramble and showed that no case requires more than 20 moves using optimal strategies. But if it's mathematically that simple, why do most of us struggle? It's because humans don't think like computers. When we solve the cube, we're not trying to find the perfect path. We're following steps, algorithms, and pattern recognition. The cube isn't hard because of math. It's hard because of memory, practice, and spatial reasoning. Now, researchers are exploring how artificial intelligence can not only solve the cube optimally, but help humans learn how to solve it better too. A 2021 paper, Hukmani et al., showed that AI systems could simulate and optimize human-like learning pathways for solving the cube, offering insights into both algorithmic efficiency and cognitive learning strategies. So how did the pros do it? Well, most speed cubers use a method called CFOP, also known as the Friedrichs method. It's an acronym that stands for cross, F2L, OLL, and PLL. First, you solve a white cross on one face. Then, you pair up corner edge pieces to finish out the first 2 layers. After that, you orient the last layer pieces so they're all face up. And finally, you rearrange them into the correct positions to solve the cube. This method is fast, intuitive at the start, and heavily algorithm-based at the end. Cubers typically memorize up to 78 algorithms to solve the last layer quickly. Every single record after Min Tai's 22.95 has been set with CFOP. Speed cubing isn't just about raw speed. It's about move efficiency. Let's say that solving the cube with one method takes 55 moves, and for another it takes 45. That 10-move difference might not sound like much, but in competition, shaving off even half a second can be the difference between 1st and 15th place. Every tiny optimization, whether it's a better algorithm, a more efficient hand movement, or better cube hardware, adds up. Let's look at Min Tai's record. He solved the cube in 52 moves. At a time of 22.95 seconds, that's just over 2 turns per second. Now this seems insanely slow for a world record, but it all has to do with the hardware. If you've ever tried solving a Rubik's Cube from the 1980s, you'll know what I'm talking about. That thing was a brick, stiff, squeaky, and prone to jamming mid-turn. It's not ideal when you're chasing good times. The Rubik's Cubes of today have evolved a lot since the 80s, but for now, let's get back to those records. Throughout the 90s, a small but loyal company of cubers kept the flame alive, mostly online. Forums like the speed-solving Yahoo group and small personal websites began to pop up. People from around the world shared solve times, homemade methods, and videos. However, there was no governing body, no standards, no timers, no scramble regulations, just passion. 2 of the most passionate people? Ron Van Butrum from the Netherlands and Tyson Mao, a college student from California. Together, they helped build the foundation for something that had never truly existed before, a global, organized cubing community. the World Cube Association was formed. The WCA was a governing body that would oversee the competition and lay the groundwork for every speed cubing tournament that would follow. The 2003 World Rubik's Cube Championship took place in Toronto, Canada. The competition had structure, something that hadn't really existed in 1982. For the first time, stack mat timers were used to record official solves. Scrambles were randomized and standardized using computer-generated algorithms. The event now followed the standard average of 5 format, where the best and worst times of the average were thrown out and the middle 3 solves were averaged. This was the first glimpse of what would become the norm for cubing competitions around the world. Speed cubing was back. The world record time was lowered at this competition to 16.53 seconds by Jess Bond, a 6-second improvement after nearly 20 years. Unfortunately, there isn't any footage of this record, so instead we'll focus on another important attendee, Shotaro Makisumi, but everyone just called him Maki. At the 2003 World Championship in Toronto, Maki was just 13 years old. In the following year of 2004, he would make history. Maki became the first person to officially solve a Rubik's Cube in under 15 seconds. His time? 14.76. Not only did Maki break this milestone, he would then go on to lower the record down to 12.11 seconds. He was only 14 years old. With such a fast progression, many started to wonder, could the Rubik's Cube be solved in under 10 seconds? The short answer? Yes. While the first sub-10 solve is, again, not recorded, we'll look at a similar record that came right afterwards. On October 14th, 2007, Erik Ackersteig would set the record at 9.77 seconds. After sub-10 was reached, naturally, more questions were asked. Sub-9? Easy. Yu Nakajima would break it with the same time in the exact same day. Sub-8? Again, Erik would strike back with a mind-boggling time of 7.08 seconds. At this point, the record had dropped almost 2.5 seconds in the past year, and it had no sign of stopping. With Erik's time being so close to sub-7, when would we see the next world record? A month? 2? 3? 6? No. It would take nearly 2 years and a whole new cubing revolution to break Erik's record. What made Erik's solve so ahead of its time? Well, he was lucky. The solve was only 43 moves, and Erik was able to skip the final step of CFOP, thus cutting down the move count. This is known as a PLL skip, and it would be found in many more records to come. But who would break Erik's seemingly unbreakable record? None other than the greatest speed cuber of all time. It's Felix Seik. Since the early days of competitive cubing, most solvers had used modified Rubik's brand puzzles. They lubed them, sanded them, tensioned them, and optimized them just to be barely usable at high speeds. They worked, but the community wanted something better. Then came the Dian Guhong. Released in late 2009, the Guhong was a revolution. It turned smoother than anything before it. It corner cut with ease. It was fast, light, and customizable. But most importantly, it didn't lock up mid-solve. The Dian Guhong wasn't just an upgrade. It was an arms race. And Felix was one of the first to master it. With the Guhong in hand, he wasn't just executing solves. He was gliding through them. Over the course of 2 years, from 2010 to 2011, Felix single-handedly brought the world record from 7.03 to 5.66, all with Dian cubes. No one could stop him. However, Felix did have one rival, Mats Volk. As 2013 rolled around, and Felix's 5.66 had spent almost 2 years on top, Mats had had enough. Using the same cube as Felix, the Dian Zanshi, he broke the record and got a 5.55. It's now 2015, and the record has hovered around 5 seconds for almost 5 years. The world record progression had slowed down, but everyone was eager to see what was next. Was sub 5 possible? 4.90 seconds. Lucas Etter, 36 moves, 7 turns per second. PLL skip. Was it a good solve? Absolutely. Was it lucky? Undoubtedly. He might not have been at the level of Felix or Mats, but he was still quite good. Speaking of Mats, he would come back quickly to break the record again with a time of 4.74 seconds. As always, Mats never got the last laugh. The next world record was straight out of a joke book. 4.73 by Felix Seik, 1/100th of a second faster. And who was sitting right next to Felix when he broke this record? None other than Mats Falk. While Felix did lose the record for a bit of time in 2017, he gained it right back in 2018 with a time of 4.59. This was then followed by a 4.22. It seemed like the age of Felix would never end. He had consistently held world records since 2010. What would he do next? It's safe to say no one anticipated what would happen next. November 24th, 2018. Yushengdu, 3.47. Almost an entire second was dropped from the world record earlier that year. An improvement that large hadn't been seen in ages. One thing's for certain. That record wasn't skill. It was pure luck. Now you may have noticed something about the names we've mentioned so far. Every single 3x3 world record holder has been a male. It's a pattern that stands out, not just because of how consistent it is, but because of what it suggests about the deeper structure of the cubing world. And here's what makes it even more interesting. The solving method that nearly every top speedcuber uses today, CFOP, was invented by Jessica Friedrich, a woman. A 2021 study by Feng et al. explored this question through the lens of competitive persistence. They found that while men and women often enter competitive fields in similar numbers, women are more likely to drop out after early setbacks, not because of a lack of ability, but due to differences in social support, recognition, and inclusivity within those communities. Speedcubing reflects that dynamic. It's not about who can be fast. It's about who is encouraged to keep going. Because the next record-breaking solve might not just be fast, it'll be powered by a method a woman helped build in the first place. This has been the Rubik's Cube World Record Progression. Thank you for watching.